What if I told you that the biggest opportunity to upgrade your focus for the rest of your career is the one thing you have been taught to fear? Most women believe that menopause destroys their ability to concentrate, that the brain fog, the memory lapses, the scattered attention, that these are a permanent decline. Well, what if that's not the full story? What if the neurobiological changes happening in your brain right now are actually going to create a more powerful, more sustainable form of focus than you ever experienced before? I have spent over 20 years working with high-performing women, many of them senior leaders and executives, and I have seen this pattern over and over. The ones who understand how to work with this transition don't just get their pre-menopause focus back, they unlock a completely different level of clarity and cognitive endurance. So in this video, I'm going to explain how to actually use this phase to upgrade your focus, not just manage your perimenopausal symptoms, but actually leverage what's happening right now to unlock better focus than you ever had. But first, we have to go back to where most women are at and where you likely are too. Most women are told that perimenopause ruins their focus, that the brain fog they have means decline, that getting distracted means they are aging, that those memory slips means something is wrong. To most, that's just how the story goes. But what I see is different. Perimenopause doesn't erase your ability to focus. It destabilizes the way you used to focus, because there are two focus systems. The first is pressure-based focus, and that system runs on things like urgency, deadlines, and adrenaline. And for years, that system of last-minute intensity and high output through sheer drive has worked fine. You would push yourself and deliver. And in doing that, you would completely override your body's natural fatigue, and still, despite taking on way more than you probably should have, you could still perform. That's how many high-achieving women build their career. Then perimenopause begins. Your hormones starts fluctuating, your sleep starts to change. And over time, your energy becomes less and less predictable. And that old system of effort and grind starts to break down. Not because you suddenly lost your intelligence or your capability, but because that entire system was built on constant stimulation and having surplus capacity to burn through. Now, for most people, this shows up as just having a harder time finishing tasks. You start something, get pulled away, and when you come back, you have completely lost your train of thought. But for senior leaders, it looks completely different. Small shifts completely change how people perceive you. 2 moments of hesitation in a quarterly review can quietly shift how ready people think you are for the next role. A slightly reactive response during a negotiation that changes how much authority you actually carry in the room. But here is the key differentiator. You need to understand. Perimenopause does not remove your focus capacity. What it does is expose how fragile your old focus structure actually was. And that exposure is uncomfortable, but it's also incredibly useful. Because when your old system stops being able to carry you anymore, you are forced to design a better one that doesn't depend on running on adrenaline, one that actually stays steady when the room gets tense, and one that holds up under real scrutiny. This phase is forcing you to redesign how you operate, and that redesign is actually really powerful. Your brain is actively adjusting to this completely new internal environment, and that adjustment creates real leverage. So in the next section, let's look at why this shift creates that leverage and how your biology and psychology together determine whether your focus actually tightens under pressure or starts to suffer. Focus is one of 6 executive function domains. Executive function is what allows you to direct your attention make decisions, regulate your emotions, plan, and actually execute. Inside the focus domain specifically, I track 9 different patterns. Your ability to stay on task, how distractible you are, mind wandering, how easily you can get started on something, your mental stamina, how you handle multitasking strain, inconsistency across the day, performance dips when you are under pressure, and overcompensation. These patterns show me how stable your attention actually is. Most women are just guessing at this, but having the actual data is so much better. Now, executive function sits on top of your brain's support system. And when that support layer starts fluctuating, your performance fluctuates with it. Focus depends on a lot of things. Dopamine for task engagement, norepinephrine for alertness, acetylcholine for sustained attention, estradiol for energy regulation, cortisol for your stress response, insulin sensitivity for brain fuel, mitochondrial efficiency for cellular energy, and your sleep architecture for restoration. When any of those start to shift, your focus shifts too. Not because you lack discipline, but because your fuel and your signaling have become inconsistent. Now, biology is one layer here. Psychology is the second layer. Having clear goals is an incredible way to reduce distraction. Deep engagement strengthens your sustained attention. Compare this to having ambiguous tasks or goals, which will zap your energy and attention at a much higher rate. Because your attention really is limited. When you got 2 demanding tasks competing for it at the same time, your reaction time slows down. Your memory retrieval gets delayed. Your errors increase. And usually, you can actually see this playing out in real time. So focus is the output of 2 systems working together: biological stability and psychological structure. During perimenopause, variability goes way up. Your energy shifts, your sleep shifts, your stress sensitivity shifts. And if your focus was built on pressure and urgency, it starts to wobble. And wobbling at senior levels is expensive. It's not catastrophic, but it's perceptible. And here is the opportunity in all of this. This is an adaptation window. Your brain becomes way more sensitive to load and to feedback during this phase. And if you can align your biology and your psychological structure during this window, you can actually build a more stable focus system than the one you relied on before. So here is what matters. This is what it takes to build focus that will hold under pressure. In my VIP work, I start with genetics, not to label anyone, not to medicalize their performance, but to understand how their brain processes dopamine, stress, estrogen, insulin, and energy. Because 2 women can try the exact same intervention. One may feel sharp, while the other one feels wired and distracted. And that's not random. Your wiring influences how you respond. Now, I don't prescribe medication. I translate clinical research into decisions that protect executive performance. So layer 1 is biological stability. Layer 2 is psychological architecture. And this is where most leaders really underestimate the constraint. Research on dual task interference shows something really simple. When you try to do 2 tasks at the exact same time, your performance drops sharply. There is a processing bottleneck. You can't make a decision about what to say and simultaneously record the exact details from last quarter's report. Your brain has to do one, then the other. And that limit doesn't disappear just because you are ambitious. It doesn't disappear because you are experienced. In a board meeting, that bottleneck looks something like this. You are asked about Q3 projections and you blank on the number you literally reviewed that morning. Someone challenges your recommendation. And instead of defending it, you hear yourself say, well, maybe we should revisit that, even though you know you are right. Or as you are presenting a strategic decision halfway through explaining it, you lose your thread and have to ask someone to remind you what the original question was. Individually, these seem like minor things, but repeated over time, they change how reliable you feel to others and how they read your steadiness. At the end of the day, this isn't just about productivity. This is about structural capacity. Focus is not a personality trait, it's a system. Next, we go leadership capability. Focus isn't the final output here. Executive presence is. When your biology stabilizes and your psychological structure tightens, your leadership behavior changes. You answer without over-explaining. You pause without looking uncertain. You commit to something without dragging out the decision. And people experience that as authority, as readiness, as credibility. Now, in this video, I talked about how you can leverage perimenopause neuroplasticity window to rebuild your focus system from brute force to strategic. But here is the thing, none of this works if your hormonal environment is actively working against you. So click here to learn how to reprogram your estrogen for peak performance. See you over there.